Godzilla King of Monsters. What can I say about this film? I saw, so far all the films in this proposed MonsterVerse, with Godzilla, and you had the Kong Skull Island, and then you have this film, and also in 2020 we have Godzilla versus King Kong. I liked the films so far, and leading up to this movie, I was excited, to see it. And what are my thoughts after watching this film? What I like about the Godzilla films, going back to the classic ones, as a child growing up in the 70s, they would play these films on TV. Fell in love with them right away. And the recent Godzilla films have been really, really a miss for me. The one with Matthew Broderick. There was the one with Raymond Burr back in '84, I believe. Godzilla '84. And the one in '98 with Matthew Broderick. Those weren't really that great. Especially the one with Matthew Broderick. Ain't that the one where Godzilla was a female and had a baby or something like that? And they made it look too lizardy. It looked too much like a lizard. But the one thing about this film is that, to me, it was slow. And there was too much focus on the humans and not enough focus on the fights between, we see Rodan and Mothra get into it. We see Godzilla with Ghidorah, who at first they called him Monster Zero, and then Z Zhang, or I like to call her Zhang Ziyi, and I still refer to her as that name. Remember her from Rush Hour 2 and what's that, House of Flying Daggers and Memoirs of a Geisha. And she reveals that its name is an ancient name, and that is Ghidorah. And Ghidorah is actually an alien that was dropped on this earth. So he's not really a part of the Titans, but he sure as hell made himself the leader of these guys, and he was running them around, and he was controlling them and making them do his bidding. We see Millie Bobby Brown in there, Vera Farmiga. We see Ken Watanabe, Z Zhang, like I said. We saw Charles Dance, who I remember from as far back as Golden Child, where he was the villain, going up against Eddie Murphy and that one child, which I remember his name, J.L. Reet. He was a kid back then. But to me, the thing about it is that there's too much focus on the human side of this film, the story between Vera Farmiga and her husband, and what happened when they lost their child Andrew, and how they were dealing with it. Vera Farmiga makes a deal with the devil, if you will, and there's these guys led by Charles Dance who want to get DNA and from these dinosaurs and create I guess all kinds of not dinosaurs, what am I saying, from these titans, and sell it around the globe, black market for it. And to me, the highlights were really the fight scenes between the monsters. But the titans, they would get into it and it would heat up, and then they would go back to the humans and what they're talking about, what they're thinking, what they think about the titans. And the fact that what gets me is that you see them at the bottom, pretty much practically at the feet of Godzilla and Ghidorah, and nothing's happened to them. They are dodging a bunch of robo and stuff like that, but oftentimes they're just standing there, and it's just like, can you just show them and not have to show them every single minute? I think Hollywood just has no faith in us being entertained by these really big gigantic monsters, these titans fighting one another, and that's why us Godzilla fans love these films. We go there to see these guys mix these monsters, these titans mix it up. We're not there for the human interest story. We're not there to see whether or not Vera Farmiga and her husband are going to get back together. Are they going to get past their son's death? You know, what's going to happen with their daughter? Is their daughter going to ever, trust her mom again because of the fact that she feels she betrayed not only her, daughter, but also her ex-husband and, the people in, that are in her company that she works for. I wish that he had focused more on the fights and less on the humans. I mean, you can sprinkle him in here now and then, but when they're in the thrust of fighting, we want to see, mayhem. We want to see, Godzilla ripping heads off and, Ghidorah trying to, roast Godzilla. Mothra. We see her in the film impale, Rodan. And then, a weird thing happens, after all this, Mothra, she does die. And then she turns into like dust or vapor, and then it's absorbed by Godzilla and makes Godzilla stronger. He becomes like a fire-breathing, you see fire all over his body just come out, and he uses that to pretty much overcome Rodan. And then we see him with, first we see Rodan's head move, Ghidorah's head move, because Ghidorah was a three-headed, titan, and it's actually Godzilla with Rodan's head in its mouth and waving it around, probably playing with it, and then he just swallows it. Either swallows it or he drops it. I'm trying to remember. And then after Godzilla, destroys Ghidorah, and then we see, what looked like a spider, and we see a woolly mammoth, and then we see Rodan. Thinking didn't Rodan die? And then we see them bow before, we also saw a spider one. Did I say the spider one? Yeah, I think I did. And then we see them bow before, I guess, the king of monsters, that's Godzilla, which was kind of like a, could kind of be like a WTF moment, like it was kind of like weird to see that, because it's almost like they want to just present Godzilla as the king of monsters already, even though the name of the movie, kind of points to that. You gotta wait and see it, because he has to face off against King Kong, and King Kong is the king of the jungle, so we'll see what happens. And we see the end credit scene, and before we see the actual end credit scene, we do see a hieroglyphic or a cave, not hieroglyphic, but a cave drawing, and then we see one with Kong and Godzilla kind of facing off. And then at the end we see Charles Dance with his crew, and they're being led into this big area, big warehouse, whatever you want to call it, and you see the head of Ghidorah. And so I guess Charles Dance's character Jonah gets to have his his Titan that he can take DNA from and sell it all over the world on the black market. The movie wasn't bad. The movie wasn't awful. I like, I just like the fact that, we get to see Godzilla. And not only that, but then we get to see Mothra and Ghidorah and Rodan. These classic monsters that we know from, some of us from childhood, some of us seeing them like maybe only 10 years ago, getting into Godzilla recently, maybe these films that started up since 2014 got people interested in the Godzilla franchise, and going back and watching the films that date all the way back, I believe, till 1954 up into of course recent times. Different iterations of Godzilla, different types of films, different types of like face-offs that he had against Mechagodzilla, and of course Rodan, and Mothra, and he even had a son, Manila, and which people give him a lot of flack, but I love that. I loved that movie that featured him. Didn't look like Godzilla. And some people want to say that, oh, that's what's bad about it, because it didn't look like him. Looked like some kind of a blobbish thing. But I thought it was cute. And of course I was a kid, so I loved it. But I guess the movie does keep this going. I don't know if, because Kong is being made. Godzilla vs. King Kong is going to be out in 2020, I believe March, if I'm not mistaken. And after that, I don't know if they're going to make any more, but I think that, and I agree with some of these other people that I've watched and their reviews, that they need to make this Kong vs. Godzilla all-out slugfest. No going back and forth between the human beings and listening to what they have to say and their commentary or whatever. Just when Kong and Godzilla are going at it, let them go at it. And then we can go back to the humans and what they're doing. And then you can go back and fight each other again, or just keep it on them. Just make it an out and out just slugfest, hour and a half of just them going at it. Why do you need the human right? I think it's just like I said, Hollywood just thinks that our attention spans are too it goes all over the place, and we're not going to be able to focus on the movie if it's just two monsters. Albeit, two of the most legendary, monsters in the history of the type of genre. Godzilla, King Kong. You don't need to have no be sidetracked with dialogue from humans. You can just put it on them and let them go. But overall, I like the film. It was the weaker, I think, of all of the films. But what I like about it, what its strength was the fight scenes. The scenes between Godzilla and Ghidorah, and Rodan versus Mothra, and how Mothra helped Godzilla, giving him strength, giving him power. How Ghidorah, I liked how he bit into an electrical tower and got charged up, and then he knocked Godzilla back, and then Godzilla, Ken Watanabe sacrificing himself to in order to blow up let a missile or a nuclear bomb go off, and he knew that he was going to die, and he went underground, because that's where Godzilla charges up when he's weakened. But it was going to take him years, so they wanted to speed up the process, so he went down underwater, way deep, and he let off a nuclear bomb or atom bomb or whatever we call it, and it helped to recharge him faster than he would have. And one touching scene in that is when he took his space hat off, whatever you call that, his thing, and probably exposed him to the radiation even more. But he just wanted to look at Godzilla with his own eyes, and then he kind of put his hand on Godzilla's face, or on his body, and pretty much letting him know that the connection they have, and how much he respects him, because he does. He always wanted to make sure that he was okay. He didn't want these guys wanted to kill him, and he's telling them, no, you can't. He's always defending him, coming to his aid, if you will. But I like the movie, like I said, and it was okay, and it wasn't bad. And hopefully Godzilla vs. King Kong is going to be a just a knockdown, drag out fight, and destroying everything in their path, throwing each other around. We need it like that, like the old King Kong vs. Godzilla movie that years and years ago. But this is my video and my review, and I guess I say my thoughts on King Kong, on Godzilla, King of Monsters. If you stop by and watch my video or listen to my video, I thank you very much. I appreciate it. And in closing, and as always, take care.